I wanted to talk once more about that Pew Research Center survey that just came out earlier this month. This massive, massive survey where they interviewed like tens of thousands of people about religion in America. One of my favorite charts that they showed in that survey when they released like the 300-page analysis of it all had to do with religious switching. And what is religious switching? It's when they ask you, like, what religion were you raised in and what religion are you now? And there's a lot of Americans who said, I used to believe this thing when I was younger. I was raised in this religion by my family, but I'm now something else. It's been happening a lot in recent years, and it threatens to upend one of the most basic and important beliefs about religion, which is that if you raise your children in your religion, your children will be that religion in the future. And I want you to think about that for a second, because this is such a big deal. One of the reasons organized religion has had historically as much power as it does is because parents could always assume that if they indoctrinated their kids from a young age, conservative Christians even have a name for this, the 4 to 14 window. You can Wikipedia that one right now. They say, if I can indoctrinate you between the ages of 4 to 14, I have you for life. So they know it's important. And they think if I get to my kids early and I take them to church from a young age and I read them the Bible stories from a young age, they will be Christians for life. You may recall there's a thing called the quiverful movement in conservative Christianity. It's like the Duggar family with their 16 kids and counting, right? And their whole thing is, why do they have so many damn children? Because they really do believe if you have a lot of children, those are more weapons to use in the eternal religious war. And there was a journalist, Catherine Joyce, who wrote about the quiverful movement years ago, 2 decades ago. And I want to show you what she wrote about that movement. This is talking about the Duggar family and other families like them. This is their mindset that she is describing. If just 8 million American Christian couples begin supplying more arrows for the war by having 6 children or more, they propose, the Christian right ranks could rise to 550 million within a century, assuming Christ does not return before then. They like to ponder the spiritual victory that such numbers could bring. Both houses of Congress and the majority filled by Christians, universities that embrace creationism, sinful cities reclaimed for the faithful, and the swift blows dealt to companies that offend Christian sensibilities. First of all, a lot of that shit's already happening, so we don't have to think about if that will happen. But all of this, the reason some of these families like to have so many kids, it's built on the assumption that if Christian parents have a ton of babies, all those babies are going to be Christian when they grow up. And what we learn about religious switching is that that's not how it works. That having more arrows, quote unquote, is not enough. And why does that happen? You know why that happens. People make friends outside their religious bubble. It happens when they go to grade school. It happens when they go to college. They might date or marry people who don't share their religious beliefs from when they grew up, because they share values, but they may not share religious beliefs. They might live in big cities or diverse communities where there is no one default faith. So it makes the spread of different ideas a lot easier. You're not pressured to join the one religion everyone has. Otherwise, you're an outcast. No, there's different places and people for you to hang out with. There's also less stigma today in saying you are not religious or not Christian, so that the pressure to remain in the fold has also evaporated. And all of that's good. And the thing I wanted to show you, that I did show you a couple of weeks ago, is what the Pew Research Center found about religious switching. And I want to show that to you for just a second. This is an amazing chart. And look at this. This is the ratio of people who leave a religious group versus people who join. And look what it says about Christianity at the very top here. Look at the blue. For every one person who joins Christianity, 6 people leave it. What about Catholicism specifically? For every one person who becomes a Catholic and joins Catholicism, 8.4 people leave Catholicism. And on the flip side, For every one person who leaves religiously unaffiliated, like you're an atheist who found God, for every one of those people, 5.9 people join religiously unaffiliated. So you could see a couple things happening here. One is there's a huge discrepancy. For every one person who joins Christianity, 6 people leave. Well, guess what? For every one person who leaves religiously unaffiliated, about 6 people join. We're stealing all of those Christians. It's not a one-to-one perfect scenario there, but a lot of those people leaving Christianity, they're not ditching it to find a new religion. They're ditching organized religion entirely. And this is what religious switching is, because they asked all these people, what religion were you raised in? And a whole bunch of them said Christianity, some version of Christianity. You know, I was a Methodist growing up. I was a Baptist growing up. I was Catholic growing up. And then they said, and what are you now? Nothing. That is what happened in the survey. That's what's amazing about this chart. This destroys everything the Quiverful movement has ever wanted. This chart is the Duggar family's worst nightmare, other than Josh Duggar. So this is why I love this chart. It was amazing. It is amazing to see these numbers put like this, because it shows people are able to switch religions, right? It's amazing. Now, why is that happening? You could blame whatever you want. Blame the sex scandals, the hypocrisy, the desperate attempts to worship Donald Trump instead of Jesus, the easy access to material for people who are questioning their faith, whether it's books, YouTube videos, TikToks, whatever. There's more ways to learn about why it's okay to leave your religion. There's a bunch of reasons. But the point is, way more people are walking up, are growing up and walking away from organized religion than entering it. So there was one limitation to that chart, though. It was all about the United States. And there's an open question of, okay, maybe that's what's happening in the US, and maybe that's due to politics. Maybe that's due to issues that only matter to one country. What is happening in the rest of the world? Are these trends about religion the same in other parts of the world? And we didn't know that from that initial survey. And this week, the Pew Research Center released an update. They released more information based on their survey where they talked about religious switching around the world, right? To give us a better understanding of what's happening. And in short, what they found is that, yeah, people are switching and ditching religion all over the place. So they surveyed 80,000 people in 36 countries, and they found that the biggest losers when it came to this religious carousel are Christianity and Buddhism. In countries that are predominantly Christian, people are walking away from Christianity. In countries that are predominantly Buddhist, they're walking away from Buddhism. And in fact, while 28% of Americans now say they are a different religion than the one in which they grew up, and a lot of that 28% are Christians who have left Christianity, guess what's happening in other countries? Let me show you this. Again, America, 28% of people have switched religions, mostly leaving religion. But look at this right here. Here's the US at the very bottom. There's our 28%. There we go. Right above my head. US is at 28%. But look at what's happening at the top here. South Korea. 50% of people in South Korea have ditched their childhood religion. In Spain, 40% of people have ditched it. Canada, 38%. The UK, 36%. Look at all these European, Scandinavian, we got Australia in there. These countries have more religious switching and ditching going on than the United States. And those are countries that used to have a whole bunch of Christians. And now they are losing that. Which countries do not have a lot of religious switching? Like, what do these have in common? Let me scroll to the bottom of this chart. Look at this. Bangladesh, under 1% of people switch religions. Yeah, you know why? Because like 10 years ago, when some atheist bloggers criticized religion in Bangladesh, extremist Muslims murdered them. So yeah, there's pressure not to switch, at least not openly so, in certain countries where there's political, social pressure not to change, where there is such a majority of one particular religion that leaving it comes with severe penalties, yeah, you're probably not going to switch your religion, at least not telling a surveyor about that. Even India, where there is Hindu extremism in India, but even there's so many people in the Hindu faith that it's really hard to switch religions. But the countries where there was predominantly Christianity and Buddhism, those are ones that are losing people. So that's interesting. And again, I just want to point out what the Pew Research Center said. When most of those people switch religions, it's almost always in the direction of non-religion. Pew said, and I'm quoting here, most of the switching is disaffiliation. People leaving the religion of their childhood and no longer identifying with any religion. And so, okay, I want to go back to that chart I showed you earlier. For every one person who becomes a Christian, 6 people leave Christianity. What is that chart like in other countries? I'm telling you, I stared at this chart for friggin' forever because of how amazing this was. Again, I just want to, before I show you, for every one person who joins Christianity, 6 people leave it in the United States. Look at what these numbers are like in other countries when we're talking about Christianity. Check this out. In Italy, for every one person who joins Christianity, 28.4 people leave it. Are you kidding me? That is incredible. They surround the Vatican. In Germany, for every one person who becomes a Christian, 19.7 leave it. I thought the US was like the outlier. Wow, for every one joiner, 6 people leave Christianity? That's insane. That's such a big difference. And then I saw that, every other European, Scandinavian country crushes us on this. This is amazing. There's the United States again. US, 1 for 6, and that's not bad. Christianity's suffering at this point. But in all these other countries, wow. Unbelievable. And I want to point this out too. I can't verify this, but I think this is interesting. Italy, lowest divorce rates, highest infidelity rates. But this is unbelievable how many people are leaving organized religion. And these are adults who said, I was raised in Christianity. I have since left it. If you're looking for, does this ever get flipped anywhere? If I scroll down to the very bottom, okay, in Singapore, for every one person who leaves Christianity, 3.2 people become Christian. Okay, in Sri Lanka, they are gaining Christians. In Hungary, where it's under Viktor Orban and it's authoritarian, they're gaining Christians. In Ghana, where there might be missionaries, they're gaining. But it's even when they're gaining, it's not by the same numbers by which they are leaving in other parts of the world. This chart is unbelievable, though. Right? And you have to ask yourself, and Pew Research did not do this, why are all those people leaving religion? Is it because of the scandals? Is it because of politics? Is it because just a general secularization that is happening around the world? Again, you should ask your favorite sociologist about that, but it's a fascinating chart. And I want to show you one last thing, and then I'll wrap this up, which is when they broke this down by age group, they found a couple things. Look at this right over here. Like in Spain, 48% of young people under the age of 35, like 18 to 34, 48% of people have switched religions. And as you get older, you are less inclined to switch your religion. Okay, so the younger you are, the more likely you are to have switched your faith. That's not a time thing. That's a trend that is happening among younger people. Younger people today are less inclined to stick with a broken religion, and they're more likely to leave it. And if you look inside those, like all of those bars, you see that little white line running through the middle of all of these bars? Those are the people who have switched their religions and gone to no religion completely. So in every one of these groups, look in the United States, for example, you see young people, 36% of young people have switched their religion, but a good chunk of them have not switched and joined a new religion. They just left organized religion entirely. That white bar in the center is almost at the edge of all these people who are switching. And I think all of these numbers, these are disasters for organized religious leaders. They are losing young people, and they're not losing young people to different religions. There are people who are saying, I want nothing to do not only with your religion, but with any religion, period. I'm out. Maybe I still believe in God. I just don't want to come to church anymore. That is an unbelievable change. No amount of children is going to change that. Christian nationalist legislation is not going to change that. If anything, it's going to turn more people away from religion. So just unbelievable trends. It's not just the United States. It's happening all around the world. Just to scroll down here. I love this. Like even in Turkey, young people are more likely than old people to have switched their religion. And even within that small bar, a lot of them are ditching organized religion entirely. Also in Poland. Fascinating stuff. Was there anything else to say about this? The survey also found that religious switchers tended to be people with more formal education. They tended to be men more often than women. But I would still argue that the biggest drivers away from religion are the actions of religious people themselves. Because when influential people wear their religion on their sleeves while pushing cruel public policies, or looking the other way when it comes to sexual abuse, or promoting ideas that have no basis in reality, it's no wonder that people, no matter what country you live in, have come to the conclusion that you're better off without those beliefs. You might keep some of the values, but you don't have to share that religious label. And none of this even has to do with whether religion is right or wrong. I think it just has to do with the real world implications of those beliefs and realizing that there's no amount of rationalization you can do to justify what people are doing in the name of their gods. So fascinating stuff. I will stop there. Let's see if there's any last questions here. Those are definitely encouraging numbers. Absolutely agree with you there. That's one of the reasons they want to destroy public schools. I mean, yeah, the less exposure you have to different ideas in different bubbles, it's better for organized religion to keep you in the fold. That's the whole point of LifeWise, like we talked about earlier. If you want to keep your quiver full of kids serving the Lord, you need to make sure they never interact with anyone but their particular denomination. I mean, that's one of the criticisms of homeschooling, right? And I'm not saying all homeschoolers do this, but it's very easy that even if you want your children to get social interaction, you're going to keep them within a religious fold. And the churches that encourage homeschooling, they all do a pretty decent job of saying, oh, you want your kids to play sports? We got a church rec league for you to join. You want your kids to do these extracurricular activities? Do it within these Christian organizations we've created for you. So it's very easy to not have to go outside your bubble in those cases. So they're trying really hard to make sure these kids don't leave the fold, but you can't keep them in a bubble forever. They're going to find out. Looking at children as objects and possessions is the problem. I agree. I mean, I have not met many atheist parents who are like, I'm raising my kid to be an atheist. No, pretty much all the parents I know who are atheists are like, no, I'm hopefully raising my kid to be a good person. And you know what? They're going to grow up and believe it and do a ton of stuff I don't necessarily like, but I hope I have, created a foundation for them, a good set of values for them to build their life off of. And then it's their life. Let them do whatever the hell they want. Hopefully they're good people. That's a very different mindset than you get in a lot of religious families. I do know that Canadian fundagelicals are absolutely apoplectic that they can't gain converts. They blame everything but themselves. I think that's true everywhere, not just Canada. They'll do anything to win converts except change all the things that no one likes about them.